The black sedan stayed 3 car lengths behind as Autumn navigated through downtown traffic. Her hands gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white, but her breathing remained controlled in through the nose, out through the mouth, just like Kru Somchai taught her. The evening sun cast long shadows between the buildings, turning the city into a maze of light and darkness. Her phone rang through the car speakers. Patricia Morgan's name flashed on the display. Autumn, where are you? Her lawyer's voice was tense. Heading home. Why? Don't. Come to my office instead. Now. Patricia. What's? Charles Mackenzie was released on bail 2 hours ago, and my sources say he's called in some serious favors, the kind of favors that come with brass knuckles and no questions asked. Autumn checked her rearview mirror. The sedan was still there, patient as a predator. I think they already found me. Black sedan. Tinted windows. Don't go home. Come straight here. I'll have security waiting. Autumn took a sharp right without signaling. The sedan followed. Patricia. I'm not running. That's what they want to scare me into hiding. This isn't about being brave. It's about being smart. These aren't high school bullies anymore. Another quick turn. The sedan matched her move. I'll be there in 10 minutes. But as Autumn approached the next intersection, a second black sedan pulled out from a side street, boxing her in. Her Muay Thai training kicked in when trapped. Create space. She yanked the wheel hard left, tires screaming, as she mounted the curb and cut through a gas station parking lot. The sedans tried to follow but got tangled in traffic. Autumn's smaller car wove between obstacles they couldn't navigate. She'd bought herself minutes, maybe less. Patricia's office building loomed ahead, but the underground parking garage would be a trap. Instead, Autumn pulled up to the main entrance, leaving her car in the loading zone. Let them tow it. She had bigger problems. The lobby security guard started to protest until Patricia appeared, practically dragging Autumn to the elevators. This is insane, Patricia said as they rode up. We need to get you protection. I can protect myself. Against lawsuits? Sure. Against whatever Mackenzie is planning? That's different. They reached Patricia's office on the 15th floor. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, Autumn could see the black sedans circling the building like sharks. I've called the police, Patricia said. But Mackenzie's lawyer is claiming you assaulted him in that board meeting. They're saying it's a civil matter. Of course they are. Autumn moved away from the windows. What are our options? Legally, we file for a restraining order. But that takes time. Practically, you need to disappear for a few days. Let things cool down. I have classes tomorrow. Students who are counting on me. You can't teach if you're in the hospital. Or worse. Autumn's phone buzzed. Madison Walsh had sent a video. She opened it, and her blood ran cold. The video showed Oliver Chen being cornered in the school parking lot by 3 Menot students. Adults. They were pushing him around, demanding to know where the teacher lived. I have to go back. Autumn said, Are you insane? They're targeting my students now. Kids who stood up for me. Autumn was already moving toward the door. I won't let them get hurt because of me. Autumn. Wait. But she was already gone, taking the stairs instead of the elevator. 15 floors down. Her legs burning, but her mind crystal clear. In the lobby, she borrowed the security guard's phone to call Madison. Miss S., are you okay? Where's Oliver now? Some teachers intervened. He's okay. Just scared. But Miss S., there are strange men all over campus. Parents are freaking out. Tell Oliver to stay with the teachers. Tell all the students who supported me to stick together. I'm on my way. Miss S. No, it's not safe. Autumn handed the phone back and slipped out a side entrance. The sedans were still circling front. Giving her a narrow window, she jogged 3 blocks to a car rental agency, blessing the fact that she always carried backup credit cards. 20 minutes later, she was driving back to Westbridge in a nondescript gray Toyota, baseball cap pulled low. The sun had set, painting the sky in shades of purple and black. As she approached the school, she could see police cars in the parking lot, their lights painting the buildings in alternating red and blue. She parked a block away and approached on foot, staying in the shadows. Through the windows of the main building, she could see people gathered in the cafeteria, students, parents, some teachers, an emergency meeting. Autumn slipped through a side door she knew would be unlocked, The janitor always propped it open during evening events. The hallways were eerily quiet, her footsteps echoing off the polished floors. Voices drifted from the cafeteria. She recognized Acting Principal Chen addressing the crowd. "I want to assure everyone that student safety is our top priority. The men who are on campus have been removed, but they'll be back." A parent's voice, shrill with fear. "As long as that teacher is here, our children are in danger. Maybe she should resign." Another voice suggested, "For everyone's sake." Autumn felt her jaw clench. This was exactly what Mackenzie wanted to turn the community against her. "That's bullshit." Madison's voice rang out clear and strong. "Miss Sinclair stood up for us when no one else would. Now you want to throw her away because some rich criminal is having a tantrum?" "Language." Miss Walsh. Shen warned. "No. She's right." Oliver stood up, still shaky but determined. "For years, we've been terrorized by bullies while the administration looked the other way. Miss Sinclair is the first teacher who actually protected us. And now you want to abandon her?" More students stood up, voices rising in support, but Autumn could see the fear in the parents' faces, the calculation in some of the teachers' eyes. Mackenzie was winning without even being here. She stepped into the cafeteria. "Then I'll make it easy for everyone." The room erupted. Students rushed toward her while parents backed away. Acting Principal Chen looked like she'd seen a ghost. "Miss Sinclair, you shouldn't be here." Chen said, "There are safety concerns." "I'm aware." Autumn moved to the front of the room, noting the exits, counting potential threats. Two men in the back who didn't look like parents' square shoulders. Watchful eyes. Mackenzie's people were already here, which is why I'm officially submitting my resignation. Effective immediately. "No," Madison shouted. "You can't." Autumn held up a hand. "But I have conditions. First, every student who supported me gets full protection. Any retaliation, any harassment, and I go public with everything. Second, the investigation into systemic bullying continues. Third, Oliver Chen and the other students who were threatened today get a formal apology and assurance of their safety." "You're negotiating?" One of the board members who'd arrived asked incredulously. "I'm protecting my students." Something this school forgot how to do. The two men in the back were moving now, trying to circle around the crowd. Autumn shifted her position, keeping them in her peripheral vision. "Miss Sinclair," Chen said carefully, "perhaps we should discuss this in private?" "No more private discussions. No more backroom deals." Autumn's voice carried to every corner of the room. "Everything in the open from now on." One of the men had almost reached her, hand moving inside his jacket. "Autumn spoon," her legs sweeping up in a perfect Muay Thai roundhouse kick that caught his wrist. Something metallic clattered across the floor brass knuckles. The room exploded in screams and chaos. Parents grabbed their children, rushing for exits. The second man lunged at Autumn, but she was ready. A knee to his solar plexus doubled him over, and an elbow to the back of his neck sent him to the floor. "Everyone stay calm," Autumn commanded. But the panic had already spread. Police officers rushed in, weapons drawn. "Nobody move. These men attacked me," Autumn said, hands raised. "Check him for weapons." As the officers secured the scene, Charles Mackenzie walked through the main entrance like he owned the play switch. Autumn supposed. He thought he did, causing more violence. "Miss Sinclair?" His smile was predatory. "In front of children, no less. Your men brought weapons into a school." Autumn kept her voice level. "That's a felony." "My men? I don't know these people. Though I can understand why concerned citizens might want to protect children from a violent teacher." The game was clear now. Deny everything. Muddy the waters. Make her look like the aggressor. Classic Mackenzie tactics. "Actually," a new voice said from the doorway, "we have everything on camera." Sarah Chen entered with a full news crew. "Cameras rolling. We've been filming since the meeting started. Got those men following Miss Sinclair in. Reaching for weapons. The whole thing." Mackenzie's face darkened. "You can't film on school property without permission." "We have permission." Acting Principal Chen said quietly, "I invited them. Thought it was time for some transparency." The betrayal on Mackenzie's face was beautiful to behold. He'd counted on the administration's complicity, but Chen had apparently grown a spine. "This isn't over." Mackenzie snarled. "Actually, it is." FBI Special Agent Rivera entered. Badge displayed prominently. Charles Mackenzie. You're under arrest for conspiracy, witness intimidation, and violating the conditions of your bail. As they cuffed him, Mackenzie locked eyes with Autumn. You think you've won? I have resources you can't imagine. This will follow you forever. Maybe, Autumn said, but your son doesn't have to follow your path. She saw something flicker in Mackenzie's eye span. Perhaps, or recognition. Then he was gone, led away in handcuffs for the second time that day. The cafeteria slowly emptied, leaving Autumn with a core group of supporters. Madison, Oliver, and a dozen other students refused to leave her side. So you're really resigning? Oliver asked. Voice small. No. Acting Principal Chen interrupted. She's not. The board held an emergency vote. Miss Sinclair, if you're willing, we'd like to offer you a new position, Dean of Student Advocacy. You'd oversee all bullying prevention programs, work directly with students, and, she smiled slightly, teach a self-defense elective. Autumn looked at her students' hopeful faces. On one condition, any student who wants to learn self-defense gets to, free of charge. We create a scholarship fund for families who can't afford equipment. Done. Sarah Chen approached with her camera operator. Mind if we get an exclusive interview? This story's gone national. 3 senators are calling for education reform based on what happened here. Later, Autumn said, right now, I need to check on my students. The next few hours blurred together, police statements, parent conferences, media interviews. But through it all, Autumn noticed something changing. Teachers who'd been silent were speaking up about incidents they'd witnessed. Parents were demanding real accountability. Students walked taller, spoke louder. It was nearly midnight when Autumn finally made it back to her car. The parking lot was empty, except for a lone figure leaning against a Honda Civic. Colton Mackenzie stood in the shadows, hands in his pockets. Autumn tensed, ready for another confrontation. I'm not here to fight, Colton said quickly. I wanted to say something. At midnight, in a dark parking lot? I know how it looks, but I couldn't do this with everyone watching. He stepped into the light, and Autumn saw his face was wet with tears. My dad's going to prison. My mom's leaving town. Everything's falling apart. Colton, and it's my fault. All of it. If I hadn't cheated. If I hadn't been such an asshole. His voice broke. I ruined everything. Your father ruined everything. Autumn corrected, by teaching you that power meant never facing consequences. But Colton, it's not too late to choose a different path. How? Everyone hates me. My friends are all getting expelled or arrested. I'm probably going to jail too. Maybe. But what matters is what you do next. Do you want to be your father, or do you want to be better? Colton wiped his eyes, looking younger than his 18 years. I want to be better. I just don't know how. Start by taking responsibility, really taking it. Not just saying the words, then work to make amends. Not for forgiveness, you might never get that. But because it's right, would you help me? I know I don't deserve it. But, ask me again in 6 months. Show me you're serious about changing. Actions, not words. Colton nodded. I'll prove it. I swear I will. As he walked away, Autumn felt a strange mix of emotions. Anger at what he'd done. Pity for what he'd become. Hope for what he might be. Teaching was never just about biology, it was about helping young people become better humans. Her phone buzzed. KRU Somshai had sent a photo of his morning newspaper in Thailand. Her story had made international news. His message was simple. Warrior teacher makes old crew proud. Come visit, soon teach my students your kind of fighting. Autumn smiled, exhaustion finally catching up with her. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. There would be lawsuits, threats from Mackenzie's remaining allies, the hard work of systemic change. But tonight, she'd stood her ground. She'd protected her students. She'd shown them that bullies could be beaten. Not with violence, but with courage, integrity, and community. The drive home was peaceful, no black sedans in her mirrors. Her apartment building stood quiet and safe. As she climbed the stairs, she found a package at her door-no return address. But she recognized the handwriting. Inside was a pair of vintage Muay Thai hand wraps and a note, for the warrior teacher. From your students who are learning to fight the right way. Autumn held the wraps, feeling their weight. Tomorrow, she'd start teaching that self-defense class. She'd show her students how to stand strong, how to protect themselves and others. But more importantly, she'd teach them that real strength came from standing up for what's right. Even when the whole world tried to knock you down, her phone rang an unknown international number. Miss Sinclair? This is Professor Williams from Oxford University. We've been following your story. We'd like to invite you to speak at our International Education Reform Summit. Your approach to confronting institutional bullying, it's exactly what educators worldwide need to hear. I'm honored, but I have classes to teach. Of course, perhaps over summer break, we believe your methods could revolutionize how schools handle systematic harassment. Send me the details. But understand I'm not leaving my students. They're the reason I fight. After ending the call, Autumn stood on her small balcony, looking out over the city. Somewhere out there, Mackenzie sat in a federal holding cell. His empire was crumbling, his influence waning, but more importantly, somewhere out there were hundreds of students who'd learned they didn't have to be victims. Change had come to Westbridge Academy, hard and fast, like a perfectly executed combination strike, and it had started with one teacher who refused to back down. The next morning, Autumn arrived at school to find the parking lot full of news vans again, but this time, they weren't there for scandal. They were covering the launch of the nation's first comprehensive student advocacy program. Acting Principal Chen met her at the entrance. Ready for your first day as dean? Ready to teach that self-defense class? How many students signed up? Chen smiled. All of them. We had to add 6 more sessions. And Autumn? Colton Mackenzie was the first to register. Inside, the hallways buzzed with new energy. Students nodded respectfully as she passed, some calling out greetings. Teachers who'd once avoided her now sought her advice. The trophy case that had showcased athletic achievements now also featured awards for moral courage and community service. In what used to be the boys' locker room, now converted into a training space, Autumn found her first self-defense class assembled, 60 students in borrowed gym clothes. Nervous but determined. Madison and Oliver in the front row, ready to learn. And yes, Colton in the back, head down but present. Welcome, Autumn said, wrapping her hands with the vintage wraps her students had given her. Before we learn to fight, we need to understand why we fight. Not for ego, not for dominance, but for protection, for justice, for each other. She moved to the center of the mat. The first lesson of Muay Thai is respect. For your opponents, your teachers, yourself. The second lesson is that the strongest fighter is often the one who never has to throw a punch. But when you must fight, fight with everything. Madison finished, remembering. Exactly. Now, let's begin with stance. For the next hour, Autumn taught them the basic show: to stand, how to move, how to block. But more than techniques, she taught them confidence. She watched Oliver's shoulders straighten, saw Madison's eyes sharpen with focus, noticed Colton helping younger students with their form. This was how real change happened. Not in dramatic confrontations or viral videos, but in quiet moments of growth, in choosing courage over fear, in standing together instead of alone. As the class ended and students filed out, chattering excitedly about next week's lesson, Autumn noticed someone watching from the doorway. Sarah Chen. Camera off. Just observing. Getting material for a follow-up story? Actually, I'm here to sign up for your next class. Turns out investigating corruption is dangerous. Figure I should learn to defend myself. Everyone should. But remember, the best fight is the one you avoid. Yeah, I've been paying attention. Sarah grinned. You know, when I first called you about this story, I thought I was covering a simple case of school bullying. I had no idea it would become a movement. It's not a movement. It's just people deciding they've had enough, deciding to stand up. That's exactly what a movement is. Autumn. As Sarah left, Autumn began cleaning up the training space. Her phone buzzed with message teachers from other schools asking for advice, parents thanking her for protecting their children, students sharing their own stories of standing up to bullies. But the message that stopped her cold was from an unknown number. Miss Sinclair, this is Mrs. Mackenzie, Colton's mother. Thank you for what you said to him last night. He came home different. For the first time in years, I see hope for my son. If you're willing, I'd like to help fund your student advocacy programs. It's time the Mackenzie name stood for something better. Autumn read the message twice. then typed back, actions, not words. But if you're serious, let's talk. The afternoon brought more classes, more meetings, more small victories. A shy freshman found her voice in a discussion about consent. A former bully apologized to his victims and asked to join the peer mediation program. Two teachers who'd been too scared to report harassment finally came forward. By the end of the day, Autumn was exhausted but exhilarated. She sat in her new office small but with a window overlooking the courtyard where students gathered, talking and laughing freely. A knock at her door. Colton entered hesitantly, a folder in his hands. Miss Sinclair? I wrote something for the school paper about accountability and toxic masculinity and stuff. Would you read it? Autumn took the folder. Scanning the first page, the writing was raw, honest, painful, a public confession and a pledge to do better. This will destroy your reputation. She warned, it's already destroyed. Maybe from the ashes. I can build something better. Maybe you can. But Colton, this is just the beginning. Real change takes years of hard work. I know, but I figure I've got time. Not like any college will take me now anyway. He tried to smile. Mom says she'll fund a gap year for me to do community service. Work with kids who are heading down the same path I was on. That's a good start. As Colton left, Autumn reflected on the strange turns life took. The boy who'd stormed into her classroom making threats was now writing articles about toxic masculinity. The school that had protected bullies was becoming a model for student safety. The teacher who just wanted to explain cellular respiration had become a symbol of resistance. Her phone rang. Patricia Morgan, her lawyer. Good news. The FBI investigation into Mackenzie's network is expanding. Turns out Westbridge wasn't the only school where he was buying influence. You've opened a massive can of worms. Good. Let them all crawl into the light. Also, I've been contacted by a publisher. They want you to write a book about your experience. The teacher who fought back, or something equally dramatic. I'm a teacher, not an author. Think about it. Your story could help teachers and students nationwide. Plus, the advance could fund a lot of self-defense equipment. After Patricia hung up, Autumn walked to her window. The sun was setting again, painting the school in golden light. Students still lingered on campus, not rushing to leave like they used to. The fear was lifting, replaced by something better hope. Her phone buzzed one last time. A photo from KRU Sumchai, of his dojo in Thailand. He'd hung a banner, Home Dojo of Autumn Sinclair, warrior teacher. Below it, a group of young Thai students posed in fighting stances, inspired by her story. Autumn smiled, touching the window glass. The ripples were spreading far beyond Westbridge, beyond even America. Every teacher who stood up to corruption, every student who refused to be silenced, every parent who demanded better, they were all part of something larger now. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Mackenzie had deep connections, and not all of them were in custody. There would be attempts at revenge, legal battles, political pressure, but Autumn wasn't facing them alone anymore. She had an army now: students, teachers, parents, journalists, law enforcement, and warriors around the world who believed in fighting the right way. As she locked her office and headed home, Autumn passed the trophy case again. Someone had added a new item, a photo of her first self-defense class. All 60 students in fighting stances, faces fierce with determination. Below it, a handwritten note. The real champions of Westbridge Academy. Autumn touched the glass, feeling the weight of responsibility and the lightness of hope. She'd come to Westbridge to teach biology. Instead, she'd taught courage. And in doing so, she'd learned the most important lesson of all. Sometimes the smallest person in the room can create the biggest change. Sometimes a teacher with a whiteboard marker can defeat a millionaire with an army. Sometimes standing up is all it takes to inspire others to rise. The war against bullies and corruption would never truly end, but today, at this school, in this moment, the good guys had won, and that victory would echo through generations of students who would never have to suffer in silence. As Autumn drove home through the quiet streets, she allowed herself one moment of pure satisfaction. She'd done what KRU Sumchai had taught, her fought with everything, protected the weak, and shown mercy to the defeated. Tomorrow, she'd do it all again, because that's what warrior teachers do. They stand guard at the gates of knowledge, protecting their students from those who would harm them, teaching them not just facts and figures but courage and character. And sometimes, when necessary, they remind the world that teachers know how to fight in every sense of the word. The story of the Muay Thai teacher who took down a corrupt dynasty had ended, but the legend of Autumn Sinclair, warrior teacher and protector of students, had just begun, and somewhere in a federal holding cell, Charles Mackenzie sat alone. Finally understanding what true power looked like, it wasn't money or influence or fear. It was a 5'4" biology teacher who refused to back down. It was students finding their voices. It was a community choosing courage over comfort. It was change, arriving like a perfectly executed strike, swift, decisive, and impossible to stop. The black sedan accelerated, closing the gap as Autumn merged onto the highway. Speedometer hit 70, then 80. The Toyota Camry wasn't built for high-speed chases, but years of training had taught her that survival wasn't about having the best equipment, it was about using what you had better than your opponent. Her phone lit up with another text. "Pull over now, or we'll make you..." Autumn's jaw tightened. She voice-dialed 911 while weaving between lanes. 911. "What's your emergency? This is Autumn Sinclair. I'm being pursued by a black sedan on Highway 92, northbound. They've made threats." The sedan slammed into her rear bumper. The Camry fishtailed wildly. Autumn's hands moved on pure instinct, correcting the skid like she was dodging a roundhouse kick. "Ma'am, are you there?" "Still here." Black sedan. License plate starts with K7. Another impact, this time from the side. Trying to force her toward the concrete barrier, Autumn glimpsed the driver, not a student, a professional. Hired muscle with dead eyes and steady hands. Units are responding. "Can you get to a public place?" Autumn saw the exit for Riverside Mall approaching, taking exit 43. She yanked the wheel right at the last second. Tires screaming. The sedan overshot, brakes smoking as it tried to follow. Autumn had bought herself seconds. The mall parking lot was mostly empty, perfect. Witnesses would limit their options, but space would give her room to maneuver. She abandoned the car near the main entrance and sprinted inside. Phone still connected to emergency services. "I'm at Riverside Mall. Main entrance. Suspects are..." Glass shattered behind her. They weren't waiting for privacy. The mall's interior stretched before her closed shops. Dim security lighting. The echo of her footsteps on polished floors. Behind her, 3 sets of boots pounded in pursuit. Autumn ducked into a service corridor. Muscle memory, from 1,000 training sessions guiding her movements. In Muay Thai, they called it finding your ring, controlling the space, making the environment work for you. "Still there?" The dispatcher's voice seemed distant. 3 suspects. Armed. "I'm moving toward." A hand grabbed her shoulder. Autumn spoon. Using the attacker's momentum against him, her elbow found his solar plexus with surgical precision. He doubled over, gasping, and she drove her knee up into his descending face. The crack of breaking cartilage echoed off the walls. 1 down. The other 2 approached more cautiously, spreading out to flank her. These weren't street thugs, they moved like ex-military, coordinated and patient. "Look," the taller one said, hands raised peacefully. "Mackenzie just wants to talk. Come quietly. No one else gets hurt. Mackenzie's in jail." Autumn replied, backing toward a door marked employees only. "You think he only has 1 phone call?" The man smiled coldly. "Lady, you cost him $50 million in frozen assets. His son's facing 20 years. You really think jail walls would stop him?" The shorter one was circling right, trying to get behind her. Autumn feinted left, then exploded right, driving her shin into his thigh. He stumbled, and she followed with a spinning back fist that sent him crashing into a potted plant. 2 down. The tall one sighed. "Should have taken the easy way." He lunged, faster than the others. Autumn barely got her guard up before his fist crashed into her forearms. The impact drove her back, shoes sliding on the waxed floor. He pressed forward with a combination jab, cross, hook. Military combatives. Efficient and brutal. But Autumn had spent 12 years getting hit by the best fighters in Thailand. She rolled with the impacts, minimizing damage while reading his patterns. When he threw the next hook, she was ready. She ducked under, wrapped his arm, and used his own momentum to drive him face first into the wall. Before he could recover, her knee found his kidney. Once, twice. He dropped, groaning. 3 down. Ma'am? Ma'am. Are you there? The dispatcher's voice pulled her back. Suspects neutralized. Send ambulances with the police. Blue lights were already painting the mall entrance. Autumn walked out slowly, hands visible. As officers swarmed the scene, 2 hours later, she sat in an interrogation room that smelled like burnt coffee and broken dreams. Detective Riveraith, same one who'd arrested Mackenzie, sat across from her. So these 3 just happened to attack you? They admitted Mackenzie sent them. Autumn's ribs ached where she'd taken that combination, but she kept her voice steady. Check their phones. I'm betting you'll find the connection. Rivera's partner, Detective Huang, entered with a tablet. She's right. Deleted texts recovered from Suspect 2's phone, direct orders from a number we've linked to Mackenzie's network. How's he orchestrating this from federal custody? Autumn asked. Same way he's run his empire for 20 years. Rivera said, layers of deniability. Burner phones. Loyal soldiers. But here's the thing, you just gave us 3 more people to flip. Eventually, someone always talks. Autumn's phone buzzed. Sarah Chen. Got everything on security footage. Mall cameras caught the whole fight. You're trending, again. #teacher warrior. Great. Autumn muttered. More attention was the last thing she needed. Actually, Rivera said, reading over her shoulder, publicity might be your best protection. Mackenzie operates in shadows. The more light on you, the harder it is for him to move. By the time Autumn left the police station, dawn was breaking. She found Madison, Oliver, and a dozen other students waiting in the parking lot. Miss Sinclair! Madison rushed forward. We saw the news. Are you okay? I'm fine. Autumn looked at their worried faces. What are you all doing here? Standing guard. Oliver said simply, if they want to get to you, they go through us first. Absolutely not. I won't have students putting themselves in danger. With respect, Miss S. Madison interrupted. You don't get to make that choice for us. You stood up for us. Now we stand with you. Behind them, more cars were pulling up. Parents, teachers, even some school board members. They formed a protective circle around Autumn. Fases determined, Mrs. Rodriguez, whose daughter had been bullied for years, stepped forward. We've organized a rotation, 24-hour protection, until this is over. You're not facing this alone. Autumn's eyes burned with unexpected tears. This was what Mackenzie would never understand. Real power came from community, not fear. Her phone rang. Patricia Morgan. Turn on Channel 7. Now. Someone pulled up the news on their phone. Autumn's face filled the screen. But it wasn't about the mall fight. The anchor was reading from a teleprompter. In a stunning development, federal investigators have uncovered what they're calling the largest academic corruption scandal in state history. Based on evidence provided by Westbridge Academy teacher Autumn Sinclair, authorities have identified a network spanning 15 schools, involving grade manipulation, fraudulent admissions, and systematic silencing of assault victims. The screen showed FBI agents carrying boxes from various administrative buildings. Holy shit, Madison whispered. Sorry, I mean holy cow. Patricia's voice continued through the phone. Mackenzie was just the tip of the iceberg. Your evidence opened Pandora's box. The Department of Education is launching a nationwide investigation. The crowd around Autumn erupted in celebration. But she felt hollow. This was bigger than she'd ever imagined. How many students had suffered while this network operated? There's more, Patricia said. Colton Mackenzie's mother just held a press conference. She's divorcing Charles and testifying for the prosecution. She's also donating $30 million to establish a foundation for student advocacy programs. On screen, Catherine Mackenzie stood at a podium, looking older than her 45 years but determined. For too long, I enabled my husband's behavior by staying silent. I watched my son become a monster because I was too weak to intervene. That ends today. To every student harmed by our family's actions, I'm sorry. And I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make amends. The camera panned to show Colton standing beside her. Head bowed, but present. Miss Sinclair, if you're watching, Catherine continued, thank you. You did what I should have done years ago. You protected children, including my own son, from becoming something worse. Autumn's phone buzzed with another text, this time from Colton, testifying tomorrow, telling everything. It's time to be the man my father never was. The crowd around Autumn had grown to over 100 people. Someone started clapping, then another, until the parking lot thundered with applause. We should get you somewhere safe, Detective Rivera said, appearing at her elbow. Mackenzie still has resources. No more hiding. Autumn interrupted, if they want me, they know where to find me. I'll be at school, teaching my classes. That's insane. That's necessary. The moment I hide, they win. The students need to see that we don't back down. That morning, Autumn walked into Westbridge Academy flanked by an army of supporters. The hallways were packed with media, but also with students wearing hastily made t-shirts. Warrior teachers protect kids and stand with Sinclair. In her classroom, she found flowers covering every surface, cards, letters, gifts from around the world. The story had gone global, the teacher who fought back and exposed a corruption empire. Before we start, Autumn addressed her packed AP biology class. Let's be clear, I'm not a hero. I'm a teacher who did her job. The real heroes are students like Madison and Oliver, who found courage to speak truth to power. But you literally fought 3 guys in a mall. Someone called out, I defended myself. There's a difference. Violence is never the first answer. It's the last resort when all other options are exhausted. Can you teach us those moves, though? Another student asked, hopefully. Autumn smiled. After school. Self-defense club. But first, can anyone explain the process of photosynthesis? The normalcy felt surreal after the chaos. But this was what mattered. Teaching. Learning. Growing. Her phone vibrated. Patricia. Mackenzie's lawyer wants to make a deal. He'll reveal everything about the network in exchange for reduced sentence. Autumn typed back. His victims deserve justice. No deals. The day passed in a blur of classes, meetings, and constant interruption from media requests. But Autumn noticed something beautiful. Her students were focused, engaged, fearless. They asked harder questions, challenged assumptions, supported each other. During lunch, acting principal Chen found her in the teacher's lounge. The board met this morning. They're creating a new position, director of student safety and advocacy. It's yours if you want it. I'm a teacher, not an administrator. You'd still teach, but you'd also oversee implementation of new policies across the district. Your methods would protect thousands of students. Before Autumn could respond, shouting erupted from the hallway. They rushed out to find Colton Mackenzie facing off against members of his former football team. Traiteur. Bryce Hamilton shoved Colton against the lockers. Your dad gave us everything. And you sold him out. My dad was a criminal. Colton shot back. And so was I. But I'm trying to. Bryce's fist cocked back. Autumn moved without thinking. Stepping between them. The punch stopped inches from her face. Touch him, and I'll demonstrate why attacking teachers is a bad idea, she said quietly. You ruined everything. Bryce's face was red with rage. My scholarship's gone because of you. Your scholarship was based on fraud? Autumn replied, you want someone to blame? Look in the mirror. Move. Or you'll what? Madison appeared beside Autumn. Then Oliver. Then a dozen more students. They formed a protective wall around Colton. Try something. See what happens. Bryce looked around, realizing he was vastly outnumbered. The culture had shifted. The bullies no longer ruled through fear. This isn't over, he muttered, backing away. Yes, Autumn said firmly, it is. As the crowd dispersed, Colton stood against the lockers, tears streaming down his face. Why did you protect me? After everything I did? Because everyone deserves a chance to change. Autumn said, but Colton? This protection comes with responsibility. You testify tomorrow. You tell the whole truth. You dedicate yourself to making amends. I will. I swear I will. That afternoon's self-defense class had to be moved to the gymnasium. Over 200 students showed up, along with parents and teachers. Autumn stood before them in her training gear, the same calm presence that had faced down hired thugs. Before we begin, understand, this martial arts isn't about fighting. It's about discipline, respect, and protection. The goal is to never use these skills, but if you must, fight with everything. The crowd chorused. Exactly. Now, let's start with stance. For 2 hours, Autumn taught them basic show to stand, how to fall, how to create distance, but more than techniques, she taught them confidence. She watched transformations happen in real-time, victims becoming guardians, bystanders becoming allies. As the session ended, her phone rang. Unknown international number. Miss Sinclair, this is Director Kim from the UNESCO Education Division. We've been following your story. We'd like to invite you to address the International Conference on School Safety. Your methods could save lives globally. I'm honored. But we'll fly you out during summer break. Your students won't miss you. Please, consider how many children worldwide face these same issues. After hanging up, Autumn found herself surrounded by her students again. They looked at her with such trust, such hope. How could she leave them, even temporarily? You should go, Madison said, reading her expression. Spread what you've taught us. Make the whole world safer. But what if? We'll be fine. Oliver added, you taught us to stand up. Now let us. That evening, Autumn sat in her apartment reviewing testimony notes for tomorrow's trial. Her doorbell rang unusual. Since the building had security now, through the peephole, she saw Catherine Mackenzie. Autumn opened the door cautiously. Mrs. Mackenzie? May I come in? I promise I'm alone. Against her better judgment. Autumn lit her enter. Catherine looked around the modest apartment, taking in the training equipment, the stacks of student papers, the simple life of a teacher. I wanted to apologize in person. Catherine began. For years, I knew what Charles was doing. I benefited from it. I stayed silent. Why speak now? Because I saw what it did to Colton. He was becoming a monster, just like his father. Then you stood up to him, and something changed. For the first time in years, I saw my little boy again, scared, ashamed, but wanting to be better. Catherine pulled out an envelope. This is information Charles doesn't know I have. Account numbers, contact lists, recordings of conversations, everything you need to destroy his entire network. Autumn took the envelope. This could put you in danger. I'm already in danger. At least now it's for the right reasons. Catherine stood to leave, then paused. Colton idolizes you. You know, you're the parent. I should have been someone who held him accountable, but didn't give up on him. He has to earn redemption himself. I know, but thank you for showing him it was possible. After Catherine left, Autumn opened the envelope. The contents were explosive enough to put dozens of corrupt officials away for decades. She immediately called Rivera. You need to see this. Now, the next morning, Colton Mackenzie sat in a federal courtroom and dismantled his father's empire word by word. He named names, revealed schemes, exposed 20 years of corruption. His voice shook but never wavered. Charles Mackenzie watched from the defendant's table, his face cycling through rage, disbelief, and finally defeat. His own son had become his destruction. When the prosecutor asked why he was testifying, Colton looked directly at Autumn in the gallery. Because someone taught me that real strength isn't about power over others. It's about having the courage to do what's right, even when it costs you everything. The testimony lasted 6 hours. By the end, the U.S. attorney had enough evidence to pursue RICO charges against 47 individuals. The network that had corrupted education across the state was finished. Court adjourned. Charles Mackenzie was led away in shackles. He paused at Autumn's row. You destroyed my family. He hissed. No. Autumn replied calmly. You did that yourself. I just held up a mirror. Outside the courthouse, media swarmed. But Autumn noticed the real victory in the small moments. Colton hugging his mother. Former victims standing tall. Students who'd found their voices. Sarah Chen pushed through the crowd. How does it feel to have taken down one of the state's most powerful men? I didn't take him down. His own actions did. I just refused to be another victim. What's next for the warrior teacher? Autumn smiled. Tomorrow, I teach biology. Next week, self-defense. This summer, maybe I help other teachers around the world stand up to their own bullies. But tonight? Tonight, I grade papers and plan lessons, because that's what teachers do. The crowd laughed, and Autumn made her way through supporters and well-wishers. Madison and Oliver waited by her car. So, Madison said, "We were thinking, this whole thing started because Colton cheated on a test. Maybe you should make your tests harder." Or, Oliver added with a grin, "Maybe cheaters should just be prepared for consequences." Autumn laughed. Really laughed. For the first time in weeks, "Get in. I'll drive you home." As they drove through streets that had once hidden threats, Autumn reflected on the journey. A month ago, she'd been a first-year teacher just trying to make a difference. Now she was a symbol of resistance against corruption. But symbols were just that, symbols. What mattered was the real change happening in classrooms, hallways, and hearts. Students who'd learned to stand up, teachers who'd found their courage, parents who'd stopped accepting the unacceptable. Her phone buzzed. KRU Somchai had sent a video of his students performing a demonstration, all wearing warrior teacher headbands. "You honor the art." His message read, "Using strength to protect, not conquer. This is the way." That evening, Autumn stood in her empty classroom one last time before summer break. The walls were covered with thank you notes, photos from self-defense classes, newspaper clippings of their victory. A soft knock. Colton stood in the doorway, holding his final exam, 94%. He said quietly, "Not cheating. You earned it. I'm starting community college in the fall, going to become a counselor. Work with at-risk kids. Maybe stop them from becoming what I almost became. That's a worthy goal." He placed a small box on her desk. "This is from Mom and me. A thank you." Inside was a pair of custom Muay Thai gloves. Warrior teacher embroidered in gold. "They're beautiful. But I can't. Please, you saved my life. Not from my dad or jail, but from becoming someone I'd hate. Let me give back something small." After he left, Autumn said a disk, holding the gloves. Tomorrow, summer break would begin. She had conferences to attend, books to write, programs to develop. The warrior teacher's work was expanding beyond Westbridge, beyond state lines, beyond borders. But tonight, she allowed herself this moment of quiet victory. In a world that told teachers to sit down and shut up, she'd stood and fought. In a system designed to protect predators, she'd protected the prey. In a culture that worshipped power, she'd shown that courage was stronger. Her phone lit up with messages from teachers around the world, inspired by her stand, each one a spark that could light their own fire of change. Autumn smiled, packing up her desk for summer. The battle for Westbridge was won. But the war for student safety worldwide had just begun. And she was ready for it. Because that's what warrior teachers do. They fight not with fists but with courage. Not for glory but for justice. Not alone but together. And sometimes, that's all it takes to change the world. One classroom at a time.